Good morning, Patrick here again from Complete Health, and I just wanted to jump on and talk about something that I find particularly interesting and that I find a lot of people really struggle with, which is understanding nutrition and how to make sure you get the right volumes of certain things into your body. What we understand is pretty much everyone is completely different. So there is a really simple guide to how to maintain your weight and how to maintain decent health through the proper nutrition of our body. Now, there is something called your basal metabolic rate, or otherwise known as BMR. Most people will confuse this with BMI, which is your body mass index, which is essentially your height versus your weight times by a certain number. I think it's about 1.2. It will tell you whether your body mass index is in check, which will tell you whether you're over or underweight. BMR, this stands for basal metabolic rate. Now, your basal metabolic rate is how many calories is your body using on a day-to-day basis without you having to really do anything. So some people have a very high BMR, so such as myself, my BMR is about 3,500 to 4,000 calories a day. And the main reason being is I never stop moving. I'm constantly in the clinic and I'm moving around. I'm working out 5 to 6 days a week. And I'm generally a young, not big, but big enough male that for the amount of work and exercise that I do, my body uses up a lot of calories. Now, naturally, if someone is using 4,000 calories a day, but they're only eating 2.5, guess what? Their body will start to lose weight. Quite the contrary is true. If your basal metabolic rate is 2,500 calories and you're using 4,000 calories, guess what's going to happen? You're going to put on weight. Now, realistically, gaining and losing weight is as simple as this. If you're using 4,000 calories a day, you essentially need to only eat 3,500 calories a day. And what will start to happen naturally is you'll start to lose somewhere between £1 and £2 a week. It's really simple. Like, weight loss is really not as difficult as what we think it is. However, just because it's simple does not mean it's easy. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can ensure that your calorie count and your nutritional balance is in check. Now, one thing we always have to understand is that food has not got the same nutrition in it as it did about 30 years ago. Due to mass farming and agricultural uses, you will not naturally get as much nutrients in stuff like your fresh fruits and vegetables as you used to about 30 years ago. However, here are a few rules that I find will naturally keep your calorie count down, will naturally keep your body in a better weight check, and also mean that you'll absorb the most volumes of nutrients you can possibly get from your food. Now, number one, always make sure it's whole foods. This is stuff like fresh fruits and vegetables, legumes, beans, meats, dairies. The main reason being is if it's a whole food and you can actually recognize what it is from the source, e.g., if you pick up a sweet potato, you know it's a sweet potato. If you pick up a steak, you know it's a steak. If you pick up a bag of nuts, you know it's nuts. And the reality of that is that if you know what the food is, you know nutritionally what's going to be in it, and it's come from nature. Now, nature does not cheat nutrition, whereas processed foods do cheat nutrition. And the reason why processed foods cheat nutrition is that what we know is in order for it to be nutritious, what would happen is it would biodegrade and rot. E.g., if you left a piece of fruit out for long enough, it starts to break down. And the reason being is that when something is nutrient dense, bacteria want to grow on it because it's nutrient dense. They want the same things that we do. So if you could leave something out on the side and it doesn't waste or disappear or go skanky or moldy, then you realistically know that's something you should be putting in your body. So whole foods, ensuring it's the right balance of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins is really, it might seem really simple stuff. It's super basic. If you don't know what your basic contents of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins are per day, it's pretty much on every single food source. So if you turn over a packet of food, it will tell you roughly what percentage of your daily intake that food is. Steer away from processed foods. They're naturally much higher in sugars, salts, and fats, which is addictive, which means that your body wants to naturally consume more of them. So if you're picking up packets of processed foods, naturally what you want to do is you want to eat more of it because of the sugar, salt, and fat. It sends a signal to your brain releasing dopamine, spikes your blood glucose, And as a result, what you want to do is you want to continue to eat that, because our body and our brain becomes addicted to the own hormones. This is why we see people consistently eating the same fast foods and stuff over and over and over again. And what starts to happen to their weight and their gut line, it starts to grow. So if you can naturally choose less processed foods, more whole foods, stay away from processed foods, and just be aware of the quantities of those foods that you should be eating, and understanding what kinds of calories are in, say, for example, something like peanut butter, which if you took a tablespoon of peanut butter would be 200 calories, whereas if you took like 3 apples, it would almost be the equivalent to the same number of calories. Guys, I hope you found this interesting. If you have questions on nutrition, I love talking about nutrition. I love talking about calorie consumption. I love talking about macros and micronutrients. We actually supply nutrients in the clinic. The main reason being is that obviously what I noticed in my health, that things started to decline because of the qualities of food. Yes, it's very good to eat all organics, but even with all organics nowadays, the food and the soil is not as good as it used to be. So make sure you're eating plenty of those whole foods, but you may need to actually supplement that as well. Guys, until tomorrow, have a good day, and I will speak to you all again very, very soon.